Hello, my name's Fran Sands and this is myboxingcoach.com. In this video I'm going to talk to you about the Flinch Reflex and 5 tips. I'm going to give you 5 tips to actually make it work for you. So the Flinch Reflex, according to the Oxford English Dictionary, it's when you make a quick, nervous movement of the face as an instinctive reaction to fear or pain. To start us off, I want to tell you a story about a gentleman named Harry Patch. Now, Harry Patch died in 2009. He was 111 years old. He was the last surviving combat soldier from the horror of the World War I trenches. Harry was a Lewis gunner, so he was a machine gunner. He was injured in the war. A remarkable man, and I watched a documentary about him, and I found him fascinating. And as a boxing coach, there was one thing that really struck me. He told a tale of in the years after the war, when he got home and he'd settled back into civilian life. He said it was always very easy to tell a veteran when he was walking down the street of his local village or town. He could always recognise the signs of a veteran of the trenches. And so cars, automobiles were beginning to become commonplace in the early 20s. So as more and more cars were on the road, a common occurrence of a car starting up or indeed just driving along was the backfire. Huge sort of bang coming out the exhaust system of the car. Not sure of the mechanical reasons why, that ain't important. But this loud, sort of shocking noise caused your average civilian to sort of jump in fright. You know, he'd go upright and he'd look round to see where the offending noise came from. In veterans of the trenches, it brought a very, very different response. On hearing the noise, they would crouch down and cup their arms around their head. So they'd be as low as they could, arms up. Now, that was how Harry used to spot the veterans amongst the civilians. And it's entirely, you think about it, it's very easy to understand why a veteran of the trenches would respond like that to a loud bang. Can you imagine if they're in the trenches, they hear a loud bang and they jump and look around to see where it came from? Very soon they're going to become the subject of a grim telegram back home. That response was, you know, instant, natural, and born of the instinct of self-preservation. That exposure to combat, exposure to the daily noises and the daily explosions and sound of gunfire drilled in that particular response. Duck, take cover, cover your head. In a novice boxer, the same mechanism is at play. So when shots come in, they might close their eyes or turn away their head, or crane the neck. Ooh. Or one that I see very often with novice boxers is they sort of get caught in between offence and defence. So rather than either punching or blocking, they will do something in between, so their arms will just kind of go out, both arms like this. Worst of both worlds. That's going to get you KO'd. So, you know, it's an instant response. It's not, it's something we have to work through. It's something that we have to develop and use to our own benefit. So, it's all about recognizing the signs of an incoming punch, and more importantly, controlling your response to that punch. So I've got 5 tips that I want to talk you through now that should help you deal with the flinch reflex if it's something that you maybe feel you are struggling with. Okay, tip number 1, boxing drills. This is the systematic training of the body and mind by multiple repetitions, doing stuff over and over and over again. The basics, the stance, moving in and out, blocking, jabbing, over and over again. It allows you to switch on an autopilot almost. When you have punches coming at you, you replace that flinch ideally with the stuff that you drill day in, day out. So when you've done extensive amount of drills, you're not shutting your eyes in response to a punch. You are throwing a perfect jab. You are not turning your head away, you are executing a perfect block. And you're not craning your neck, you're pushing away to fight another day. All useful responses, all useful ways of harnessing the benefits of the flinch response, which will mean quick responses, and turning it into something useful. Tip number 1, make sure you do lots of drills. Tip number 2, remain compact whilst you are in range. Now this is about erring on the side of caution. No loose guard, so when you're in range, don't be having your arms like this, okay? Because the flinch reflex will simply exacerbate any gaps that are already in your defense. They'll also simply make them bigger, more pronounced, more obvious, and more likely lead to you getting smacked in the mouth. So play the numbers game. Keep the guard nice and high. You can keep your hands open inside the gloves, okay? So what basically happens, you're tight and compact, but you're not tense. You're still relaxed. The double arm block, the most effective way of stopping shots hitting you. So you can look through the gap in between your gloves. But the flinch reflex, when you're compact and you're in range, you know, it's much easier to turn it into that as opposed to shutting your eyes or anything else. So when you're in range, remain compact. That way, the flinch reflex will mean that any result of that flinch reflex, any physical action that you perform, will be more efficient and more likely to succeed. Tip number 3, use of peripheral vision. So some boxers stare straight in the eyes of the opponent. Others, myself as one, harking back to my boxing career, I used to focus on the centre of mass, centre of the opponent. Regardless of which, it's really important that over time you develop the ability to use your peripheral vision. So this vision here, because peripheral vision will allow you to spot the slight foot movements that brings an opponent into range. Peripheral vision will allow you to identify a flaring elbow. Okay, so I'm looking at the opponent, but this elbow flares over here. My peripheral vision is coming into play. Peripheral vision will allow you to spot the drop of a hand. Looking at the opponent, hand drops, so it's there. So that peripheral vision will expand the number of things that you are likely to engage a flinch reflex with. So if you see that foot going, you can respond. So you're increasing the number of potential triggers of that flinch response, if you like. It's not an overnight thing. You need to be exposed to different boxers and different styles. It's all about experience. So when you tune into use of your peripheral vision, you become an all-round, more capable, competent and better boxer. Okay. Tip number 4, technical and controlled sparring. So there are 3 types of sparring. I'll pop a link below to talk through what these spars are. So you've got technical sparring, you've got controlled or conditioned sparring, and you've got open sparring, which I'll talk about in a minute. So let me give you an example. Technical sparring and conditioned sparring are kind of the same, although technical sparring is you stay static. So you have 2 boxers, boxer A and boxer B. Boxer A will throw a jab. Boxer B will block that jab. And they will repeat this, and repeat it, and repeat it. They'll change over 5 shots each. You keep going. You do it day in, day out. You do it week in, week out. Over time, it has 2 real positives. You learn to recognize the signs of an incoming jab, and you then develop great blocking skills in response to that. You do it in a controlled environment. This is about sort of going to war without actually having someone shoot at you. All right. It allows you all to identify all of the physical bits that will help you develop that ability to respond to the flinch reflex and get back into winning the fight. Okay, tip number 5, open sparring. Open sparring is pretty much simulated boxing in the gym. Boxers learn by doing. Test yourself. The more you spar, the better you get. That's, it is a reality. Now that sparring is supported by the other stuff we've talked about. Drills, working with a coach, working on the bag, working through the technicals of the sport, and then getting in the ring and doing the business. So there's the 5 tips. I want to give you one overarching piece of advice. Look, I don't want you to translate all of what we've just talked about into a concept that, or a belief that I am advising you to get in the ring and wait for your flinch reflex to happen. Don't fall into the habit of waiting for a fight to happen when you get in the ring or when you spar. You make it happen. You take charge. Boxing is a pressure business. If you're not punching, you should be feinting. If you're not feinting, you should be punching. Keep it going. Don't wait to see what happens. You get in and you make the fight your own. All right. That's my final piece of boxing advice on this particular matter. Now, Beginner Boxer Toolkit, here somewhere, is a free downloadable book packed full of information for whatever type of boxer you are, whether you are interested in boxing purely for fitness or for competition. In that book, I take you through 7 tools that will really help guide your journey, your boxing journey, to achieve whatever you want to achieve out of learning how to box. Okay, my name is Fran Sands, and this is myboxingcoach.com. Thank you very much.